Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Boy, we got the big boys out today. This one comes in from Michael, and this one is a Penn Senator 12-0. Well, I usually say that they don't get much bigger than this, but there's actually a, it goes up to the 16, and I believe there's a 20 out there as well. Although I haven't worked on the 20, I have worked on the 16. And these are very large Penn Senator fishing reels. And they're designed for trolling. A lot of people call these the Jaws reels because, well, Jaws had a variation of the Penn Senator mounted there. And then what was the line out of there? I think we need a bigger boat. Maybe you needed a bigger reel too. This is huge, but surprisingly enough, if you're able to service Penn reels, if you know a little bit about them, here's a Penn 85. And you're going to see essentially the same thing inside this big reel as you do in this smaller version. The design concept is not that different. They are, of course, bigger pieces and parts and stronger gears and a little bit more in terms of the drags and the like. But for the most part, Penn stayed with their design. And both of these reels were designed around the same time. That version that I just showed you there, although that's a later edition. Penn came out with their reels in the late 1930s, and they pretty much stuck with their designs right through. The modern Jigmaster is all similar in design with that kind of bridge plate and the like. So we're going to take this big one away and apart. I'm going to show you how to service this, show you some of the unique features behind it, and actually starts right with this part that we're removing here. And, well, we're going to get this one all tuned up for Michael so that he can take it fishing again. Now, Michael's out of Maine. I didn't ask him what he's fishing for yet. I will. But I think that overall he's probably fishing for tuna up there, or shark. We have the great whites. I mean, that's where the movie Jaws was filmed, right? Up in the Massachusetts area. And he's, of course, just above that. So we'll see. But we're going to get this one all tuned up. And we start by removing the exterior pieces and parts. While I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like to see how fishing reels are serviced and repaired. Maybe you're doing it yourself and you want to learn a little bit more. That's kind of what the idea behind Second Chance Tackle is, passing along what I know to you and while enabling you to give your reels or others a second chance. When we remove the handle, behind that is probably my first opportunity to tell you, take pictures along the way as you start working on a reel, particularly if you haven't serviced the reel in the past. That way you know the orientation of the pieces and parts, like that little spacer washer there, or the big star adjuster wheel here. And the pictures, take them at critical junctions. That'll be a reference point for you. And well, we're fortunate with Penn that you can get the schematics on the internet. One of the places for that is mysticparts.com and others. But if you don't have a schematic on some of these older reels, well, you're just plain stuck. And pictures will help you get unstuck should you find yourself in a situation where you can't remember where a piece of part went or other things like that. Okay, here's your first difference. On the Penn 85, you need to remove the bridge in order to service the drag washers, which are on the gear stack here. On the big Penn reels, that drag stack can come out without removing your side plate. We got the first cap off, and if I worked enough, there's a spacer ring, large one, and then the rest can come out. There you go. We're starting to work our way down. The good news here is that he's got the modern HT100 drag washers in here. Well, you don't need to do it this way. We're going to do a full service on the reel, so we certainly don't need to do it this way. But I did want to show you that, yes, you can get in there and you can do all of those drag washers in service. A very deep pocket here. That's a lot of drag washers. But you can service your drag washers without removing the case of your reel. Okay, we're going to remove that case because we want to do a full internal cleaning, and then we'll show you how to reset all these drag washers. When I take my pieces and parts off, they go into a parts tray. you need to have a parts strategy before you start servicing reels. Normally I use one basket for my pieces and parts. I think this one's probably going to take two because of all those drag washers there. So I keep some spares on hand. They're fast food containers, and they serve my purpose because there's actually two different sides to them, and I can organize the pieces and parts that I take off by sub-assembly so that I don't confuse them. When you take your screws off of that side plate here, make sure that you identify any that are longer or shorter. Penn, well, they normally take long screws for the crossbars. I'm going to remove that harness lug there. And they put short screws in the reel seat here. That's so they don't protrude through the reel seat and, well, catch line as it's spooling or unspooling. So I like to lay them out, make sure that they're all the same size. And you'll see if this is holding according to plan that this one will be a shorter screw. This and the next two. Yep, they are. They're about a 1/4 inch shorter. So just notice that, because if you put the short ones in the cross-wind bars there, they will work. But if you put the long ones below, they're going to stick out. And again, if they're sticking out, the line can catch on them. All right, we have two more here. And we'll show you the inside, show you the comparison there. These are very big reels. They are saltwater. I guess you could call them freshwater, I guess, if you're going for the Loch Ness Monster or something. Pretty sure Loch Ness is freshwater. Been there, I was there in a terrible rain. Couldn't see anything, didn't see Nessie, but it was fun anyway. Okay, so there are 5 long screws, 3 short screws. I'll take those before I have a chance to knock them off of my workbench and put them into the back. Okay, what did we say? We said this reel and this reel, well, they're darn near identical, right? So Penn stayed with a proven design right up through the big boys. And, well, the only thing that's a difference with them is basically the size of the parts, not the design. All right, this is the bridge that needs to be removed. Before we do that, I kind of do a couple of things. And it's by force of habit, but there is no particular order to it. Here's a bearing. I'm going to test the bearing. I just use a screwdriver on the inner race, turn it, make sure that it's turning free and easy and it's not stuck. I choose the oil bearings, and well, that bearing can go back in the side plate here. That came out with the spool, belongs in the side plate, and it may fall out yet again. Before I go any further there, I want to just take the opportunity to clean. As long as you're doing the work on the reel and you have that reel apart, you might as well take the time to clean it. I use kitchen scrubbies and rod and reel cleaner. This is Penn's rod and reel cleaner. For most of the basic cleaning, this just looks like it has some film on it. So you don't want to get real aggressive with your cleaning. You could go to steel wool 4.0, the ultra fine. I say 4.0, it's not 4.0 like a Senator, it's 0000. That's how you'll find it listed on the packaging. And if you need a little bit more, you could go to a polishing compound, or you could go to the, I said it would fall out, I'll put that in the case now. You could go to a little bit more aggressive thing like that steel wool. But overall, you've got the reel apart. You're not going to be able to clean the insides of this using with the spool on. So take your opportunity now to get it to the point where it's nice and shiny and bright. And that's what this rod and reel cleaner does. It also does a nice job on the Bakelite side plate. And if you have a basic film, things that just kind of accumulate on your reel from salt spray and just being on the boat, or maybe even when you're fishing, maybe you get the fish scales or things like that. And you want to take care of your reel after each use. First thing to do is flush it with fresh water. That'll remove the salt. And then, well, a rod and reel cleaner is a protectorant, works. Other folks like to use WD-40 or a penetrating oil, the WD being water displacement, to clean their reels, or at least when they're done cleaning it, to give it a light spray to eliminate the corrosion. That's something you could do as well. Okay. All right, we're pretty much through that. I'm going to take a moment here. It's a lot of braided line. I don't even think I have a rubber band that could fit that. Let's try. I like to put rubber bands on there. They hold the line from slipping. See if we can snap one here. Oh yeah, we can do that. There you go. Now that way it won't trap into the side bearing. All right, we've oiled that bearing, cleaned the frame. He's loaded up with braid here. We can just kind of get the rim here. And while I'm doing that, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, maybe you want more information about the reel, and the like, just leave those in the comment section. I do try to answer those, and to the best of my ability. And if I can't provide you with the answer, I can certainly at least point you in that direction. All right, spool goes back in. And now we're down to the business end of this reel. As soon as I get that bearing seated. I think what happened here was this clip is in the way. There we go. All right, that's out of the way. Business end of the reel. So we're not done with our cleaning yet. We have an inner trim ring. That was the harness lug. And you can see how some of the oil is leaked out of here. And that's okay. Actually, it looks like that may be something that's worn off. My guess is that's a wear. Yeah, that looks like something is stained that or is worn off of that from a finish standpoint. Probably where the hook's going. That wouldn't surprise me. All right, just put that off to the side for a moment. This one I'll clean up after I take the bridge apart. So the bridge is held by 4 screws. Underneath that you have your pinion gear, your main gear, and actually the main gear can start trying to fall out. 4 screws. So let's take those off next. And there is a anti-reverse dog in here that you do need to be aware of. I believe these are the old flat spring variety. So whenever I take a reel like this apart, Penn reel, I always cup my hand behind. And the reason I do that is that that spring has a tendency to fly off when you release the pressure. And one of the things I like to do is to capture that spring, at least in the palm of my hand. If it does want to shoot, it's going to shoot here. If you're not that comfortable doing it this way, put this inside of a gallon bag. That way, if it does shoot out, it's going to pop off into the bag and not into outer space. All right, those 4 screws have been released. This one, I see the whole bridge is coming down, and so just easily let this off and you should be able to find that dog spring. And this is your dog spring. So this one stayed home, which was nice. And now we have the componentry, which again is very similar in nature to the smaller reel that we showed you earlier, which is the Penn 85. That's the Seaboy. All right. Next up, we want to push the pin through and get this spacer sleeve off. Sometimes it's easy to do, and sometimes you need a little assist. We need a little assist here. That's going to be off camera, unfortunately. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to line up the sleeve. Maybe it won't be off camera, we'll see. I'm going to use this awl that I have. I'm trying to find a little hammer. And we should be able to tap that out. There we go. So I wasn't able to do it with hand strength, but I am able to do it with that little assist from the pick. Push that through. Sometimes it'll come all the way out, sometimes, well, you can leave it right in there, and that's why you wanted to take that off. It's important that you remove the gear sleeve, because all of this grease and dirt and debris, regardless of the size of the reel, tends to kind of lay right there. There's another bearing. We'll do the same thing here. We're going to wipe this bearing down. And if I seem to jump all over the place, well, that's just kind of my style, I guess. But in the end, hopefully we keep everything where it belongs, right? On the top end, again, it's the same thing. We have two springs and a jack. The springs go right into my parts tray because they have a tendency to wander. A little bit of dirt on our eccentric here, we can clean that off. Some old grease in the inner chamber here, so I'm going to use a penetrating oil there. And for the most part, just like the other piece, if you can get it out by using soft type materials, go ahead and do that first. If you find that there's something in there that's just really stuck and you need to move up the scale of abrasiveness, do it. But remember, try and do it with the least amount of abrasion possible. That will prolong the life of the reel. Okay, we're wiping off the yoke. And again, here's an example. This is an inner bridge. That's the same thing that Penn used, only in a bigger variety on this reel. All right, that's got a lot of grease on it. I do wear a protective glove on my one hand. I do that so that the greases don't stick around much on that hand. I've had trouble with trying to use that same approach on my dominant hand, so that's why this one goes ungloved. But I do, where I can, try to err on the side of caution. All right, so I get that last washer out of there, put that into the basket before we lose that. Make sure that the inner side of the gear is clean. I'm just going to set those two gears aside for a moment. You can tell they're massive. All right, we're going to take our paper towel again and go back to the old grease here. Again, wipe as much of that off as you can. And if you need an assist, move up that scale. We also have the grease on the back end of the shaft here. And we have grease inside. It's on that post, so I'm going to use a cotton swab to get that out of the way. And a little bit more, I guess we'll just do a squirt of penetrating oil into there. Grab one more cotton swab to move that through, just to make sure it's nice and clean. We're going to be putting new grease in there, but you don't want to put new grease over old grease if you can avoid it. All right, let's take care of cleaning this out of the way. These things are massive. Most of the time I'm going to tell you, put your parts in a tray. These things are almost so big that it's hard to lose them. Of course, famous last words, as soon as you say that, something will go jumping off your table. So just be cautious. Just like we clean the other parts, we're going to use a little bit of penetrating oil as a solvent. Clean out that inner shaft. And then on the gear teeth themselves, and you can see these are huge. This is major machinery here. I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to grab a bristle brush. I'm going to pull through to make sure that the gears are clean. You don't want any obstructions in the valleys of these teeth. And while you're doing this, you want to check to make sure that the teeth are perfectly aligned, that they're not bent, chipped, scarred, or in any other way deformed. Okay. we've cleaned the grease off. We want to do the same thing here as well with the main gear. And again, these things are massive. We're going to pull through. And I keep that paper towel under there. One, I don't want to transfer the grease to my bench. And the second thing is I can get it on here and wipe off after I complete each one through, so I don't just keep moving it down the line. I'm not sure if they're still making the 12. I know they still make the 9s, but these things are not inexpensive, that's for sure. Okay, kind of time to put it back together again. Take a deep breath. We're going to be using fishing reel grease as our grease of choice. In this case, it's Penn Precision Reel Grease. Not because this is a Penn reel, although I'm sure Penn is happy that I'm using Penn grease, but because it is a fishing reel, and that's the operative word there. A little bit of grease onto the shaft. Bring our sleeve over and place that on. And if I didn't mention it before, this pin that's here is going to ride right in that groove there. That's what's going to hold that assembly on line so that it doesn't fall off. I'm going to use a little pliers here to pull that pin in. You can generally assume if you had to tap it out that it's going to be a little bit difficult getting in, so go ahead and use pliers like that if you like. You need to make sure that this point on that pin clears the shoulder. It's not quite set there, so I'm going to get that one more time here. If you don't do that, your main gear is not going to clear. Didn't get it that way. Let's try it this way. There we go. Now we're clear. All right, with that completed, the next thing we can put on is the main gear. There is a washer that goes on that stem. Don't lose it. Your anti-reverse dog, that's really there to separate the anti-reverse dog as well as just provide a little bit smoother operation for your main gear. So if you don't have that washer on there, if it breaks off, make sure you go get a replacement. I've seen folks that have put some other stuff in there, put a drag washer in there, some other things to make up for one of those that's broken. Take the time, order the part. Parts are available. Okay, main gear goes back on. And then we can turn our attention over to a bridge side plate. That would be this. And we put the bearing that's fallen off back into its slot there. Next we want to take the two big springs. They go in each cavity. Next up is the yoke. Grease on both sides of the yoke so that it rides nice and easy. Then our pinion gear, so the slot faces towards you when we go to reinstall the gear. And just like we did with the main gear, make sure you get an ample amount of grease in there. Now don't over grease it, it's going to squeeze out if you over grease it, but a good amount of grease will be just right. To set the yoke, you have the two holes in the yoke, you have the two springs, you center the holes on those springs. Then press down, and again remember that the slot is facing you as you do that. A little bit of grease onto the eccentric, a little bit of oil behind the eccentric. There's a slot you'll find where that spring is, you can oil it there. Take your jack and set that up, and then you can relieve the pressure for a moment there. So that's how you set that side. Next up we have to deal with the anti-reverse dog. And the main gear. And I think I'm going to go with putting at least some of the drag washers in before I install that. Sometimes they fall out. All right, these drag washers are in good condition. But what we do want to check out here is how many we have, and that will tell us the sequence. So first, you're going to find one of these. You usually find one of these. I think there's may all be the same thickness. Yeah, you're going to find one of these that's thicker than the others. That's your cap washer that goes up top. And then this is your spacer. We have 3 eared washers, 4, which tells me we should have a 7-washer set. We do. And for this, I'm going to use Cal's Universal Drag Grease as a way to freshen these up. Since you have the 4 keyed washers, that's the ones with the rectangular centers, and the 3 eared washers, you're going to start with a keyed washer after you put the first of the drag washers in. So it's a drag washer, and then make sure these are clean and not pitted. These are in good condition. It's safe to say that this reel has had the drag washers replaced probably in a prior service. So we're in good shape there. Okay, now you alternate on the metals, the keyed washers with the eared washer. If you try to put this ear washer in as the first one, that slot does not go all the way down in your main gear. You won't have a drag. I guess that's lessons learned from experience. But I must have tried that at some point. Or maybe the reel came in and the person tried to do that and complained that he had no drag, and that was the cause. All right, second keyed washer. We're just alternating these now. And the way that I work with the drag washers, I just put a little bit of grease on. I use my gloved hand to wipe it down. You need to see the cross hatching through the grease. If you can't, you got too much grease on there, it's only going to squeeze out. Right, next eared washer. And this is kind of rinse and repeat, right? The grease keeps the drag washers from drying out. That's why you're using grease in this situation. Okay, we got 2 more washers to go. This is your last of your keyed washers. I'm sorry, your eared washers. Then you have the keyed washer next. And just notice that we're getting a little too much grease on there because it's been transferring from my hand after I've dipped it each time. All right, then your last of your keyed washers. I'll get this out of the way. Put the top back on that. And then we can put that big cap washer on. And guaranteed as I go to do this, something's going to fall out of there, but you get the idea. Sometimes you actually get lucky. Find your side plate that has the stud and the indentation in it. That's where your anti-reverse dog is going to go. On this side, there is none. So that's a good indication of what you want to do next. Bring this whole assembly up and bring it in from below. I'm going to try and hold that drag stack now. Push down on your pinion gear. Rotate your bridge about halfway. Then get one of the fully threaded screws. There's 2 different size screws. There's fully threaded and partially threaded. Fully threaded goes below. Angle your anti-reverse dog so that you have the anti-reverse with a good intersection there. In this case, the part number is stamped on it, looking at you. And then sometimes you're going to have to replace this. Sometimes it's going to come pre-bent just as it is. This one's got plenty of spring left in it. And what you want to do is put it on top of the dog and rest it along the side plate here. And this is not necessarily easy to do. Sometimes when you're doing this, you're wondering if you can't get an additional finger or 2 or 3. I just slid this one behind. So that didn't set right. I'll try it again. And I know my hand's in the way. I apologize for that. Okay, so that's how it's set now. You see the wing on the side plate, the other one on top of the dog. rotate the bridge the rest. Okay, I'm going to apologize if we just had a skip there. My camera just reached its limit. I had to go back and reset that. Okay, so where were we? We're putting that screw in here, I think. You may have missed the first one. I hope not. Tighten that down. Make sure that's nice and flush to the inner case. We have 2 more to put in. I'm going to go to the top on this side. And again, I'm trying to balance these drag washers on the inner stack, which sometimes it might just be easier to put the main gear back in. I just decided to do it this way. Sometimes you have to live with those decisions. Sometimes it makes it a little bit more awkward. And 1 more screw. Somehow I've managed to keep the drags in there. Okay, next up then, we really want to put that star adjuster on now to hold everything in place. There's 2 sides to the star adjuster. There's one that's got the indent on it to keep water out. That's the one that goes facing this way. Once we've tightened down the star adjuster, just give it a twirl. Make sure that your anti-reverse is working. You hear that nice long click in the back there. Just put that side plate back on. Line your hole for your harness lug. It's the best way to ensure that you've got this going on properly. And then with a little bit of grease onto your spool shaft. Again, not much. It's just going to go inside the pinion gear. Bring this all over. I like to put it into the operations mode so that it doesn't catch. And then align your free spool, the harness lug piece. And I'm just going to start a screw here before I go to try and put that harness lug back in. It's because I just don't want to lose the side plate mount. This is your lug. You have 2. One of them is on the actual harness. Some of the harnesses triangulate. I'll bring this one over into the second one. And then we should be able to just put them any way we want after that. Again, these are the long screws, not the short ones. And again, if you've taken pictures along the way, you've identified which go where. I'm going to tighten the 3 of these we have down. And we're getting close to the finish here. It's a long video. I apologize for the length, but sometimes reels just take a long time to service. And I do want to show you all of the steps, provide the tips where I can. Okay, there's just a few more screws to go now. This is usually the point where I'm asked about, can I use a mechanical screwdriver? You know, this is a lot of turning. It's fatiguing on the hands and the like. And generally speaking, I don't recommend that. There's a lot of torque in those mechanical screwdrivers. It's prone to rip off heads, particularly on reels like these that have these tapered heads. If you want to do it, I would tell you to go ahead and use a mechanical screwdriver, but leave the screw proud. Leave it a couple of turns short and finish those last few turns by hand. That way you reduce down the risk for shearing that head off of the screw. All right, got 1 more to go. We'll put a handle on it. We'll give it a test. We'll see how we did. Get this one back to Michael. And we'll catch some big fish with it. My hands are getting tired. We were talking about the fatigue setting in. Okay, here we go. That's the last of these. Make sure they're all tightened because in all likelihood this will be going out on a boat. There's a lot of vibration on boat engines on the deck. It's shaking the tackle free. You don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're losing the screws there. Give it a spin, make sure that it's spinning nicely, which it is. Put it in a free spool. We're going to have some work to do here with the tightening down those drag washers. We'll give it a test soon enough. All right, remember there was that little shim washer that went in here. And the handle goes on. And right now, there's just 2 pieces left in my parts trays, which means we've put them all back on. I guess the only question is, did you put them back on correctly? All right, tightening the handle screw down. You want to align a scallop now with that little hole for the set screw. That last little turn is usually pretty hard to do. Okay, once you have that aligned, bring that set screw over. And if this is out of frame, I apologize because it's just such a big reel. It takes up the whole frame and then some. Okay, set your screw down. In. Okay, the gloves are off. It's time for a final test. Let's review what we've done. It's been a long one. Just refresh your memory here. What we did was we started with the premise that the big reel and the little reel are all the same, just a matter of size and materials. We showed you how the inner bridges are almost identical. This would be the one facing in between a smaller Penn reel and a very large Penn reel. We took the time to show you how to take everything apart, service it, clean it, inspect it, and put it back together again. Now it's just a matter of testing. So let's go into free spool. When we go into free spool, we should have a nice, free and easy turning reel. And point to note here, there is no spool adjustment here. Those 2 bearings are locked in. You can't tension them one way or another. I know some of us are familiar with the ones where you have the caps on it. That's not the case with these big reels. But it spins nice and free and easy. The bearings were inspected. We checked for them, oiled them up, cleaned them, and put them back in. And well, now let's go into gear. We showed you how to set the gear. We showed you how you could service the drag washers on the reel without taking the rest of the reel apart. In this case, we took it all apart. Let's put that into crank mode. That click, click, click that you're hearing is that anti-reverse dog that we set in place. That's working nice and easily. You got to tighten down on the drag washers here. They're holding firm. And I always recommend that when you take the reel out of service, back off so you do not compress those drag washers. You don't press out the greases that we've put on there. And well, that helps to prolong the life. That's it. That's the Penn Senator 12-0, a very large trolling reel that Michael from Maine has sent in. It's a beautiful reel. If you have the opportunity to use a reel like this, I would encourage you to go get a Penn reel. It's a very dependable reel. They're not inexpensive, but they are certainly worth it, especially if you're fighting big fish. I want to take a moment to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, all of the folks that are involved in keeping us out of harm's way. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for watching the channel, for making this channel what it is. And well, finally, I like to return the reels the way the customers sent them in, and his included a red rubber band. I don't have a red one here, but we'll just tie that one off with a blue one to hold your little harness lug down. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.